So hi everyone, I'm Szymon Jóźwiak and I'm co-organizer of Hack of Tomorrow Hackathon. And today's meeting will be dedicated to BSV blockchain and will be hosted by Rohan from BSV, who will introduce us to key aspects of SPV wallet ecosystem. And of course, BSV blockchain company is our partner, who also participated in the creation of the challenges, about which we will discuss shortly. And of course, you can find previous webinars on our YouTube channel. Comment section is of course yours as always. And let's get started in our last, but of course not least, webinar.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to be continuing the session from yesterday where we left. And today, what we are going to be focusing on is hands-on experiencing of SPV wallets, as well as going through the code base of how you can be using the template I'll share with you today to develop your applications for the hackathon using the SPV wallet. So what we're going to do is a GitHub repo will be shared. I'll be bringing that up. I hope you already have the installation of VS Code as well as the Node.js runtime environment done and ready in your systems, as I shared in the last workshop. We are going to be learning how automated transactions are done user to user, how wallets are created, and how you can access the balance of the user to show the balance to the user, how you're going to create data integrity transactions also, which do not transfer a Satoshi or any token, but rather use the ledger for inscribing any bit of data, to use the ledger for data integrity purposes. Depending on the use case that you focus on in the hackathon, you can use part of the code from the template I will provide to you and build your application, customizing the interfaces, customizing the backend around it. Right? That will make your job quite easy while focusing on your application logic and the business logic of your application. All right, so let's get started. A short recap of what we learned in the last workshop. We learned the fundamentals of blockchain, particularly the BSV blockchain, how SPV wallet works and why it's unique. We learned why SPV is important, why direct transactions are possible using the SPV method without intermediaries. So it's a true peer-to-peer wallet system, making lower transaction fees and high scalability of the blockchain possible, enabling microtransactions. We looked at some of the use cases that are possible with SPV wallets and the BSV blockchain. Today, what we are going to do is use the SDK and the template we have with us to create wallets, check the balance. These are the steps we'll follow. Receive payments first, because you will have a brand new wallet created first. So that will have a paymail ID. I'll tell you what a paymail is. And that would receive payments or Satoshis first from me, and a faucet link that I'll share where you can receive Satoshis and fuel up your wallet with Satoshis to send to your users if you require, or pay the transaction fees that would be also required. And then you can send payments to other users in your vicinity, any other wallet that you create also, or any of your batchmates. And then we'll be creating the data integrity transactions. Sounds good? So I hope you have the systems ready with your VS Code and Node.js, and let's begin. I assume basic familiarity with JavaScript and ideally React.js or Next.js projects. That's the most popular frameworks that can be used to build applications. So we are having a template created in that and presented in that. Um, there's wide information available on the internet for these frameworks that you can learn in order to make sure that you are on pace with the current template and how you can be using it. All right, so the first step is to visit the repository link that's shared over here, which is at github.com/timechainlabs/SPV template, right? If I click this, let me actually show you how that looks also. This is what you would see on your screen when you click on the link that's shared. Let me bring up the link as well so you can be in sync and make sure you follow along in the workshop. Visit this link on the screen, and the first step would be to clone the repository presented here. Let's go back and follow the steps also of cloning, of how you would be exactly doing that. Click on the code button here, HTTPS, copy that. I hope you have your terminals ready or the VS Code ready. Let me start a totally new VS Code on my system as well. And let me share my screen to bring up my own terminal. The first step after cloning the repository, which we'll be following through also while I bring up my screen, is to go through the README file of the repository, which is having the instructions to set up the repository, which are the basic instructions for any JavaScript project to do an npm I or npm install. You can proceed with that. Meanwhile, I'm bringing up my screen and sharing my VS Code myself. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. It should be, yeah, bringing up the code as well. And this is my VS Code. Let's get started here. So the first thing is you can clone a GitHub repository by clicking this button as well and pasting the GitHub repository link. And that will actually clone the repository in any folder that you choose. Choose the folder that you want it to be available as. And I've chosen SPV workshop code repository folder, and that's where it's cloning. And we are going to open this repository. So this is the template repository that's provided to you. I hope you can see my screen well. And if all's good, let's continue. Just a second. I think I'm having a glitch. Just a second, guys. Yeah, I think this should be better. All right. So I hope all of you have this repository open in your VS Code, and let's get started. So the first thing, as I told you, is to be installing the node packages. I'll follow along with me, make sure you are following the steps. The steps are also written in the README file of this repository itself, in which you can go over to the step of npm I or npm install and wait for all the modules to be installed. And it is on my system. So let's proceed to the next step. The next step is for you to run the repository, or you can generate keys. But let me come to the keys part later on. I first need to show you the application of how you can be using the the SPV wallet, how it looks like, and experience it a little bit. So let's do npm run dev, which will run the code base that we have as of now. And soon we'll be diving into the code base as well. So here it is, the Next.js repository working with your local host page setup. Let's click on that link. You can click by going to Control plus click or Command plus click if you're in Mac, and that will open the page. The page which is made up by the code that you see in the template. Now, it's a very basic code that's written to give you a structure of the Next.js project of a full stack application of how you can just use to create user wallets and have payments sent and check the balances, right? So that makes sure that you can customize it from this point to make your custom applications. So let's start with creating the wallet. And the first step to do that would be to, let's say, enter your name and enter a paymail. Now, this is the point you need to understand about paymail. Paymail is very much like your usernames of or the emails particularly. So just like your emails, the email analogy just continues from the last workshop. Just like your emails are used to log into applications or connect to applications on different websites, and email is your identity on the internet currently. The evolution of that is what we call as the paymail, where paymail is the identity of your wallet, of how you connect your wallet with different applications built and using the BSV blockchain. And with paymails as the identity of the wallet, you can send to other users and you can receive payments also from other users with that paymail. And a paymail looks very much like an email. So my paymail would be rohan at spv.money in this case. We are having a paymail server ready and a UTXO manager or a wallet infrastructure behind the scenes already provided to you. So you don't have to go into the nitty gritty of maintaining and developing and setting up all of that, right? You focus on your application logic for the hackathon. So we have all of that ready, and that's why this template repository is provided to you to get started and going. The paymail is going to have the name of your own name or username, whatever you would like to have as your identifier. In my case, I'm using Rohan Sharan, my full name, and at it will be spv.money. Make sure you're having this domain only and not any other domain, because that's the domain we are using for the paymail server that's set up and ready. And that's it. With that paymail being the identifier for our wallet that we are going to create, we're going to have a public name for this wallet as well as an extended public key. Now, this is the important part you need to focus on, where we need to actually run a script to generate new key pairs. As we learned in the last workshop, there are key pairs with ECDSA cryptographic technique that are generated as private key and public key pairs, right? Now, the wallet is the manager of UTXOs, and it needs a key pair that you generate and keep on your own device. That's what is called as non-custodial wallet, where you own your own keys and you keep your own keys with your own device, where there's the custody of the keys is not in any database on anyone's server, right? So when you have a
Rohan,
custodial,
I'm sorry, but I think we didn't see your screen for now, so you can share it with website, and then we can continue.
yes, let's do that. Sorry about that, guys. The switching between the code repository and again the website is a problem. Let me share my entire screen. I hope it doesn't cause the glitch again with the entire screen, but let's use my entire screen. Is this good?
I think yeah. Now it's good. So
Okay,
yeah.
let's
Hi.
continue. Okay, so After the step of what you saw in the code repository of running the command of npm run dev, we clicked on command plus click on the localhost 3000 where the page is up of our repository. And this is the creation of a wallet screen, which I was telling you about. And what you enter is your name and the paymail, as I was telling you. And the paymail needs to be your own username, which you want to set, as well as it should end with at spv.money. So that's how it should end, because that's the paymail server that we are running. Next is the extended public key that needs to be entered here. And here we are going to create a new wallet. And I was telling you about the custodial wallet and the non-custodial wallet. And what we are creating right now is a non-custodian wallet. So we need to generate keys which are kept locally on our system. And the public key is what's shared on this page so that our servers can set up and manage the wallet for these public keys, right? And manage the UTXOs and function behind the scenes for your new wallet that's getting created. So let's go on and create the keys. And for that, we have made the process seamless for you. Click on the plus icon here and switch the terminal to a new terminal while your current front-end application is running live, because we still need this page to enter. So let's switch the terminal into a new terminal, and there we have it. Now let's run the generate keys command, which was already there in your README instructions, which we skipped over at first. And let's have a generation of key pair. Let's look at the code base also. We'll be looking at it shortly of what exactly happens to generate keys. And here we have the response. You should be getting that response for the private key and the public key pair as well. The public key is what you need to catch here, right? So the public key is what you are going to submit into your application screen, which we had and which we left here. It would be starting with X pub. That's your public key that you need to be aware of. And it's also known as the extended public key. There is a concept of hierarchically deterministic keys, which we will not go into deeper right now. As of now, you can just understand it as your main public keys. And we'll be registering this wallet and creating a new user, right? So let's go ahead and do that. And that's it. We are inside the wallet. The xpub key has been registered. The public key has been registered. Now we have the option of entering our private key in order to get our balance, or by clicking send Bitcoin, we can do a payment, or by clicking inscribe text, we'll be going to the option of creating a data integrity transaction, right? So let's do all of them step by step. So the first step is to have us enter the private key that we also generated here. Why are we entering the private key? Because we want to fetch the balance. Now, the balance is a private information, and you need the private keys to be able to access your balance that is going to be provided by the wallet server. So that's why we are going to be providing the private key, which we control, to prove that we are the owners of this public key and get the wallet balance. So there's a wallet ID that we get in response, and we get a creation date of the wallet that we had and balance, which is 0 as of now, because it's a totally new wallet that we created. Now, in order to proceed, you would require some Satoshis. So the next step of our workshop is to submit your paymail that you created in a form that I have created for you. And this form is available at this URL, tinyurl.com/bsvfaucet. And that should give you the Satoshis in order to proceed for further steps in the process. So let's go ahead and actually open that so you are familiar with it. tinyurl.com/bsv faucet. If that's working well, that opens a form for you where you have to submit your pay mail to receive satoshis for the hackathon, right? And here, make sure you record your email so we are in sync of what's your email and get in touch with you if you require any help. And the new pay mail that I created, remember the new pay mail that we registered while we just created a new wallet? It was Rohan Sharan at spv.money, right? In your case, you would have your own pay mail that you created your wallet with. And skip the next two parts as of now, because this is just to submit that you completed the workshop successfully with the payment transaction ID and a data integrity transaction ID, right? So leave both of them and just submit as of now. Let's record my email and have this form submitted. I would want you to also be doing the same so that you receive payments. I'll make sure to have satoshis sent to you when this is complete. All right, let's proceed. If there's any payments or requests coming through, I'll immediately be going through them and sending you some satoshis. And what you can also do is, once some of you receive satoshis, you can send over the satoshis to some of your friends, right? Who can continue developing their applications as well. Okay, let's go on with the next step. We followed through the steps of creating the cloning the repository, following the instructions of installing the Node.js packages, uh, generating the keys locally, and we also created a new wallet, and we logged in with the xpub key, and we viewed the balance as well, and we have received satoshis by filling the form and submitting our pay mails that we created. And now what we are going to do is refresh the balance to see if we received the satoshis, right? So let's head over to our application screen again and view the balance. But first, before viewing the balance, I need to transfer satoshis to my new wallet myself from my old wallet. So let me do that. So I am transferring about 1 cent worth of satoshis to this wallet at Rohan Sharan at spv.money. And here it goes. I just completed it and it should be available here in a moment. Yes, it is. So 29,766 satoshis are there in the wallet balance that's getting shown. This is what you should have once you receive a payment as well. We'll make sure to email you back if possible quickly. If I can automate that, that will be good also, of you receiving the satoshis, and you can proceed to the next step. So that's the first step to be done with you having balance now. So since you have balance of satoshis, now you should be able to transfer your satoshis to another wallet and view a transaction that we created. For that, again, we require the private key stored locally on your system that you need to submit in order to create a transaction, because a signature would be needed and generated by the server. And the moment you enter that, you will be having two fields remaining to be filled of the recipient paymail address where you want to send satoshis to, and the amount of satoshis that you want to send. So let's say I'm sending my satoshis to my other wallet of spv.money. Same will happen with your user wallets as well. you will be using the same code that's running behind the scenes, which we'll be going through next, in order to transfer the satoshis from one user paymails to another user paymail that will be saved in your application system. So you would know which user is having which paymail, and you should be able to automatically transfer satoshis by just running the same script that you would have in your code base already. And let's say we choose 12 satoshis to be transferred, and click send. If that's going well, or let me actually choose handcash.io, and yeah, this creates a transaction with a successful transaction ID that's there. Now, this transaction ID, if you copy, and let's say we open it on the What's on Chain Explorer that we explored last time of how you view a transaction, it had a transaction ID. We generated a transaction, the first transaction, using our own application and code base, and we can paste it and view it on the blockchain here. And you see 12 satoshis are getting shown as the output number 1, which is 1.2 e raised to minus 7. Yes, so 1 e raised to minus 8, that's the smallest unit. That's exactly 1 satoshis. Now 1.2 e raised to minus 7, that's exactly 12 satoshis, right? So 12 satoshis have been sent. This transaction is done, and the change output is also created, because our 29766, remember the satoshis I transferred just a few seconds back to my new wallet, that was this UTXO, which was first received in this particular transaction, this 29766, and it was spent in this particular transaction with 12 satoshis created as output 1, and output number 2, particularly if we go by this indexes, that will be output 1. It's having the remaining satoshis, and a fee of 1 satoshi has been given to the miner, right? So that's the successful transaction that we created. And let's proceed with the next and the last part of this application that's available in the code base to you, which is to inscribe text on the blockchain. And that can be not just simple text, it can be any piece of data that you can inscribe and then fetch from the blockchain to prove its integrity and prove its timestamp that it existed at that point of time. So here again, we start with the private key that we had, which is here. Let me copy that. And we continue and paste that. And let's inscribe any message. So testing live SPV data integrity transaction. Okay. And let's inscribe this text. If that's working, there seems to be an error. Base 58 character 1000. Let me try to fix it if that's requiring. We'll fix it in the code base as we go along anyway. So let's go and look at the code base that we have. And for you to customize it, it would be important for you to understand how the project is structured and how you can be using it to construct transactions on your own as well. I would be keeping a lookout on the form that you submit with your paymail IDs, so we make sure to fund your paymails and you are ready to go with the next step of the hackathon. All right, so we have gone through the creation of a transaction, a wallet, checked the balance, failed in creating the data integrity transaction, but we'll be fixing that also. Now, the project structure is very simple, like any Next.js repository, but the first TypeScript script that we need to look at is the generate keys script, which we ran at first. The very first script that we ran locally in order to generate the keys. Let's look at that script. So what we are doing is importing, if you can see my screen still, yes, it's all good. We are importing the SDK from at bsv/sdk. That's using import of mnemonic and HD private keys and public key pairs. So that's a technique that you need not get to know about as of now, but it's essentially a way to have hierarchically deterministic key pairs that's ensuring privacy with new addresses created, but you need not bother about it right now. And a random bytes library loaded. And let's go straight deep diving into the functions. The generate keys function is the main function that's used with an entropy of random bytes of 32 bytes that gets used, and a mnemonic, which is a seed phrase that's created that you can remember or save it anywhere, which is English words that you can use to save the keys in a human readable format, which can be copied and created and recovered easily, right? So that's the mnemonic, as we call it. And with that, we are able to generate the keys from mnemonic to seed, which is generating the seed phrase. And then we are having from seed, we are having the HD wallet. And with that, we are having and returning the wallet keys, private key and the public key, and that's what is getting printed in the console. That's a basic rundown of the generate keys script. Now let's look at the library, which we have as the main code base for all of the functions that are getting exposed in the front end application of your app page, which is the React page, which is loading the wallet and loading different tabs and functionalities with different components there in the component section, where each of the components are providing each of the functionalities. Like the dashboard is providing the functionality to fetch the wallet information and show the balance, and all the code of the front end is here. But the main file that you care about is the wallet.ts, because all of these components are referencing and calling the functions that are exported by wallet.ts. Here you can see the functions exported by wallet.ts is get wallet info, get transactions, create a transaction, create a user wallet, get UTXOs, create OP return transaction. So all of these functions are what is useful for you. So we are going to go through the wallet.ts file only to understand what is there in the scripts and how you can use each function and create the backend or use the functions in the backend or the front end, depending on how you want to be using and creating your wallets and saving the wallet information and creating the rest of the application, depending on how you would find it convenient to do it. So let's continue on with the application script. Here, the first and most important function is to create a user wallet, right? So that's already exposed, though you need not look into it deeper in order to build your application. But let me just show you also what's exactly happening. It's taking in the three input fields that we took in from the front end, which was your public key, your paymail, and the public name. These three were used, and an API that we already have for our server set up to create a new wallet is called, and you get a response with successful creation of a new wallet, which takes us to the next phase by the router to the next screen to get the wallet information and get the balance, right? And in that function, we are again taking the private key this time and fetching the user balance. So that's what gets us the user balance, and we are using the await syntax to fetch the promise of the user balance, and that's what we are displaying by calling it in the dashboard to show the refreshed user balance. Get transactions is not used. You are not shown a front end particularly to fetch transactions history. But in order to show to your users the list of all transactions done by them, you can certainly use this function that's already built for you, which will provide you the list of all transactions by fetching it from our server, which is maintaining and providing you that service. And then the next important function here is the create transaction, which is taking the input of the private key, which we had locally created, and choosing the recipients of who we want to pay to as a string and the amount of satoshis that we want to pay. And that's creating the wallet client transaction by entering the details it received from the front end and creating the transaction successfully, getting the transaction ID, and that should work when you integrate it on your front end as well. Then we have the inscription, which is having the output created, which is inscribing a message on the blockchain. And that's having different parts to it. But the most important part is the private key that's again getting used, and the message that's what you want to imprint or inscribe on the blockchain. That can be any document, any type of image, also any type of file, any message that you want to inscribe and prove. Or you can create your own protocol also of structuring some message or that needs to be imprinted on the blockchain, and you're using the blockchain as a timestamping service. So that's for that, and that would create a transaction with the OP return message. And with the configurations set up, it would create a transaction. Now let's try to fix this also. I'll try to fix it. If it works, that should be good. Or you would get the updated code before you run and get to this part of the application at the end of the workshop as well. And that is it. There is just one last function that's remaining for you to understand, which is the get UTXOs. So if at all you require to get a list of all UTXOs, and you remember from the first workshop, we understood what a UTXO is. Essentially, you are asking the wallet server to provide you the list of all notes and coins, all cash notes, essentially the UTXOs, the list of all of them to manage the wallet more deeply, control which UTXO you want to spend or not spend for whichever reason you would want to do that. And that brings us to an end of the rundown of the scripts you can be using. Now let's understand how you can actually implement this in different models of use cases on the blockchain. And for that, I am going back to the slides, and let's continue to understand how you are going to use this code base and create applications. So what you saw right now used a non-custodial structure. It generated keys locally. Now it's up to your application to decide whether you want to do the same, whether you want to provide an interface for your users and take in some random value and generate keys for them automatically behind the scenes in the front end, but the keys are stored in the front end, and it's a user non-custodial wallet that's created. Or you can have a normal sign up sign in process for with password protection that you have for any application, and you can have a custodial wallet created behind the scenes where you store the keys by running the same script on the back end, and you save the keys on your database, and that's how that will be a custodian wallet service. Though what is recommended is a non-custodian approach where you have the keys on the local device, but it has its own drawbacks, because it's better to be using wallet infrastructure or a wallet provider who maintains the keys for the users, because users lose the keys quite easily. So it's either to do that or to use, that's why you can save the keys yourself also, in order to provide some recovery mechanisms for your users to recover their satoshis if they're lost. So that's the caveat you need to take care of, but that's not going to be the important part here of how we are even going to judge the hackathon applications. So you can make sure to focus on your use case and create transactions successfully. So for that, we would divide the type of applications into two parts. The first is to have some kind of a payment applications in which you are transferring satoshis. You're creating transactions to transfer values, and you can even imprint transactions with data. That's the second type of transactions, where you want to create a data integrity use case where there's no value transfer that's happening, right? So value transfer use case and data integrity use case, you can choose which one you are focusing on. And if you're going with a payment use case or some type of a token transfer, then you need to decide whether you are doing a user to user interaction where the application has a server, but the server's wallet is not interacting with the user's wallet. What you're focusing on is peer-to-peer, user-to-user transactions between users for whatever reason. Let's say you're having a marketplace of some kind where there are sellers and there are buyers. Seller is also your application's user. Buyer is also your application's user. Both of them are transacting, and a payment is happening from the seller's wallet to the user's buyer's wallet to the seller's wallet, and that's happening instantly, and the balance is updated. Or you are creating a crowdsource application in which crowdfunding is happening, and you are joining in funds from multiple users, requesting funds from them, getting funds approved from them, signed by them, and you are, let's say, donating to many people at once. So you're creating different types of payment applications. So that can be done. And for that, we would call it the user to user payment flow, in which the paymail would be selected and the transaction would be created by your front end. And you can call the create transaction function that you saw in the code base just now at that point in your interface to make sure the transaction happens from the user A's wallet to user B's wallet. Now, the other type of application could be a payment that happens from the user's wallet to the server's wallet. So you, as an application creator, have your server, and you also create a wallet of your own to, let's say, receive payments as an e-commerce platform. That's one type of a thing where the user comes in, browses your website, and tries to buy things with Bitcoin, um, or tries to do a payment for anything that coming in particular, to pay for any service. It can be a loading of a page also. You can provide a paywall that protects some data behind the scenes, which is only revealed when a payment is received by the server wallet, right? So that is something that can be done. You can have pay per use services that are created, or even recurring payments that are created depending on what you think about and structure. You can create those use cases and have a wallet created behind the scenes in the server. In that case, your wallet keys would certainly be in your database or in the environment variables, and that's where you'll have a admin wallet essentially at the server level, where you are receiving the payments from your users, which would be the buyers of anything, right? So that's the two types of transactions. You can be creating e-commerce platforms. You can be creating content monetization platforms in which you provide content behind a paywall, or you can be creating donation tipping systems. You can be creating IoT systems in which you would be having the script run in much more lower level environments, wallet created inside IoT device firmware, and that's where the machine to machine payments would happen. That can also be done. um, or you can create gaming applications where users bet on different games, and the winner gets the funds collected. So those things can also be done. You can have game assets, you can have in-app purchases powered by BSV also. So those are the different use cases that are possible. And that brings us to an end. What I want to discuss with you and get to know from you is, what are the challenges you foresee in building these applications? If you have any questions, you can ask right now. Any technical questions, if you want to dig into further, and share some ideas if you are already clear on what you want to be building. The repository I have shared with you also has links to the documentation of SPV wallet and more examples given. Let me actually show it to you as well. If at all you require to dive deeper into the implementation, you can go to the repository and check out the README. At the end, we have made sure you are provided a list of examples. And if you click on the examples, that will give you more lower level scripts example to create, let's say, get balance and other scripts that could be required by your application. That's not provided by the template we are giving you as of now. In case that would be required, we will be in touch with you anyways to resolve your doubts during the hackathon, so that should not be a problem. And that brings us to an end. uh, Make sure you are up to date with all the news by joining the Discord for the hackathon, and that should be it from my side. Thank you so much. You're on mute, Simon.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Rohan, for being with us and for introducing us to SPV wallet. And thanks a lot to BSV blockchain for helping us to make this hackathon better. And also, finally, I would like to warmly invite you to participate in our hackathon. But unfortunately, we've got full for participant, but you can still join us as free listener. You only have to go on our website, Take Off Tomorrow, then on side events, and on Hack of Tomorrow site, there will be opportunity to do so. So thanks a lot again to the whole BSV team, and see you guys. Bye.